The Mariners are back to 500 after yet another series loss, and this is getting really frustrating. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Series Now episode of the Seattle Baseline Podcast. My name is Julian Smith, and I'm with Alex Hong. Alex, last week, I didn't see you on the podcast, and I really wanted to start with a happy note, with you back on the podcast, and the Mariners should have won that series and everything, but clearly we lost again. So after a decent enough first game, the Mariners look completely defeated against Pittsburgh. Alex, what do you make of this? What is going on?
Yeah, there's a lot we gotta talk about because this Pirates team, we didn't even have to go against Paul Skeens, right? If you're telling me we lost the series because Paul Skeens threw like a complete game, okay, it happens, right? But he didn't even play, right? So this is just sad. Like, it's so sad to watch this team. In the first game we barely won. Okay, cool. Cole Young had that massive two-run homer. That was probably the only reason why we won that game. Kirby had a pretty good start too. Second game, offense was terrible. Brian Wu was terrible, and we're going to talk about him a little later. And then the third game, it was just more terrible. Yeah, this is the result we got. And I guess that 8 game winning streak was a fluke. I guess that was the fluke, and I guess this is just what the Mariners are. This is a very mediocre team at its current state. You can't even talk too much about the injuries because we got players back now, right? We still don't have Donovan, okay, right? But there's no way Donovan fixes this team to where it's a lot better than it already is. This offense has been terrible in the last few weeks, and I haven't had the chance to talk for 2 series because or didn't haven't yet to talk about this one, and I missed the last series analysis episode. But yeah, this offense has just been bad.
Yeah, and you were just talking about the 8 game winning streak and how maybe it was a fluke. I think you're not too far off on that, because I think that you look at that 8 game win streak, and the first thing you notice is that the Mariners are pumping home runs left and right, and that's how they won the games. Without hitting the home runs now, even if they have runners on base, they're not scoring any of them. And the runners in scoring position stat maybe was getting a little inflated by them mashing home runs all over the place. I think that was what was going on there. And so it's it's weird because at the start of the season, Dan Wilson says, "Hey, we're going to slow down the bat speed." Well, actually, not Dan Wilson. It was the offensive coaching staff says, "We're going to slow down the bat speed, and we're going to make this team hit a lot more singles, line drives." The only guy that's really benefited from that so far is Randy Arozarena, and I'm not sure if Don Canzone is actually in that, doing that right now. But Randy Arozarena certainly is, and he's definitely benefited from that. So, what is Randy Arozarena doing differently compared to everybody else? Randy Arozarena is hunting the pitch in a specific quadrant. He's not just so. If you have a square, you have this square right here, right? You've got this quadrant, this quadrant, this quadrant, and this quadrant. If you're listening on Spotify, if you can click on YouTube, you will see the quadrants I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Randy Arozarena says, if I get a fastball to quadrant number 2, that's going out of the ballpark, or I'm gonna hit a double down the line. Everybody else is saying, well, if it's a fastball, I'm doing this, and if it's a slider, I'm doing this. In this quadrant, I'm doing this. They're not hunting the specific pitch. Randy is. And that's why he's been able to mash against the pitchers this year, even though his slow bat speed is there. And his hands are a lot lower. His bat path is a lot quicker. Well, not quicker. His bat path is a lot shorter. And so his decision making is a lot easier because he has a little bit more time to see which pitch is coming. And as long as he has that specific pitch in mind, that pitch is out of the ballpark. Nobody else is doing that. Remember, last year and part of this year, I was talking about how Julio Rodriguez, if he hunts a certain pitch, he's elite. That's what he does. Second half, Julio hunts a specific pitch. Right now, Julio, not at all. Right now, Cal Raleigh, maybe, but not noticeably. He's not doing that right now. And so that's where the real issue is stemming from, is that they're not hunting any pitches. They're just hacking at anything that they see. And so now you've got Julio swinging at sliders low and away, even though I was praising his two strike approach earlier in the season.
Yeah, it looks like this team is kind of a mess right now. And no one's playing well except, Randy, he had a good start. He hasn't been as good as he was to the start, but that's hard to sustain. Canzone has been our best overall hitter in general. I know he doesn't play every day, but he's been really good. Um, but a lot of our guys are just slumping right now, and when everyone's slumping, you don't score any runs. And this team is not clutch at all. Let me tell you, when this team has runners on scoring position, it's like I'm batting out there. It's like they have no idea what's happening, right? It's just really frustrating to see. You look at the game, right? These team, both the Pirates and the Mariners, I believe. Let's look at the last game. Okay, the last game of the series, we had 6 hits. The Pirates had 8 hits. But the Pirates had 5 runs and we had 1 run. And that might not be the best example because they got a few homers and we didn't. But what I'm saying is, we're getting like not too far off on the hits, and somehow, some way we still managed to not score runs. Actually, the first game was an example. The first game the Pirates actually out hit us, but we ended up winning, right? But they are able to chain together more hits to score more runs, and we're just not doing that. We're like, okay, if we don't hit a home run, it's over, right? That's because a home run automatically scores, and don't have to rely on that scoring position. And there's no point of drawing walks. Like the last game, we drew a lot of walks. Okay, yay, but we didn't score any runs with those walks, really, right? So they were pointless walks. Like, we get on base, but then we like strike out right away, right? So it's just situations like that to where it was useless. So we're not doing a good job chaining together hits, and that's the big problem here. This team, because they're not very clutch in these situations and can't score with runners in scoring position, we have to rely on the home run, which is what we did last year. But last year we were a way better home run hitting team than this year. And it's a lot of the time, we don't even have Suarez. Raleigh's not hitting 60 this year. That was a miracle that he did that last year. So it's just a worse version of last year's team with the same type of goal or expected result because that's what they're good at.
I want to touch on your walk point for a second. I actually don't think the walks are useless, but I want to separate the walks into two categories because I think when you think of walks, people call them free bases or stuff like that. But what a walk really is there's the first category is the free base, the one that everybody talks about, which is the pitcher can't locate the pitch and they're throwing it everywhere, and so you walk. That's what happened today. But the other side of walking is what Randy Rosarena has actually been doing, and which is the reason why he continues to have a 374 on base, is because he's grinding out the at bat and not letting the pitcher escape and taking the walk. He can default to the walk and not have to worry about hitting. The the free base is, it's not useless because clearly you benefit from that. But in the sense of, are you actually a better player? It's useless because that's just saying the pitcher was bad. But if you can grind out at bats, that means that you're seeing the pitch exactly the way that you want to. So that's the clear difference between someone like Randy Rosarena and somebody like Julio Rodriguez right now, or Cal Raleigh, Josh Naylor right now, is that Randy Rosarena's walks are actually grind out walks. And the if once we separate those into two categories and then we say, well, are we taking enough grind at bat walks? No, you're striking out like every single at bat, and then you're grounding out and you're swinging at pitches that you're not supposed to be swinging at. So how are you supposed to win? Well, no, you can't. That's that's my biggest thing. It's not about taking more walks. It's about taking more grind walks, making sure you see the pitch correctly without having to rely on the pitcher being bad.
Yeah. We've had a strikeout problem. Emerson, or sorry, Colt Emerson. He had a really good start to his MLB season. It's been slowing down a bit, but the real problem is the strikeouts. Like it's one thing to slump, but he basically strikes out every time he goes up to the plate nowadays. So I'm not trying to blame the guy. He's 20 years old. Like Julian, you're literally older than him. So I don't really blame, like, I can't really like be like, oh, if this team was trying to rely on Cole Emerson, like if it was like the mentality of if Cole Emerson is good, we're not good, then the team was never supposed to be good to begin with. So I'm not blaming him for anything. It's just there are certain players, obviously Raleigh is a big strikeout type of guy and Julio as well, right? So at least with Raleigh, though, he always draws a lot of walks, and that's a guy who you can rely on getting on base. So the walk problems we had earlier on are getting a little better, I think.
So the guy that I think the Mariners can really learn from here is Munetaka Murakami, who plays for the Chicago White Sox. He comes to the U.S. He starts playing for Chicago, and one of obviously he has a bunch of home runs. When you hear the name Munetaka Murakami, you think of home runs. But the other thing is that he takes a ton of walks, and he's walking at almost 400. He's walking like Randy Arozarena is, except he's got even more home runs and even more slug. He's really elite. What the Mariners can learn here is that even if Murakami doesn't hit the home run, because they're scared of him, they're going to throw the pitches outside the zone. They're going to try to paint the corners. They're going to walk him. And also, he's watching the pitch every single time. I remember when we played him in 2 series, he didn't swing at the pitches. And that's what really separated him from what the Mariners were doing in that series, even in the games that we won. And so the Mariners should really look at what he's doing there because he is he is the epitome of what I'm talking about here with the grind out at bats walks. So I want to make that one clear because he is exactly what I'm trying to talk about here with what the Mariners should be doing. But let's move on because I think this next series is against the Cleveland Guardians, who are tied with the guy we were just talking about, Chicago White Sox, in the American League Central leaders. So, Alex, what do you think of the Cleveland Guardians? They're winning the division.
Um, it's hard for me to say, right? They had that crazy run last year, if you remember, right? The
Yeah,
Tigers were leading the division, the Guardians went on a magical run, and we know what happened there. But I think we're against the Guardians, I say, at a good time because Jose Ramirez, who's obviously really, really good, is injured right now. And he's not going to be back until at least in July. So their best player, like historically, their best player for the last few years, not there. So not a concern. Um, but they got a decently solid offense, right? I'm not sure what happened to Stephen Kwan. He's actually been really bad this year. Chase the Lauder, I picked him up in fantasy. That guy was like destroying us. He's been cooled down though, right? But he had that amazing first series. Do you remember that one, right? The one they
yeah.
went against. Oh, that was pretty bad. Solid pitching though, I gotta say. Their starting pitchers are pretty solid. Um, yeah, it's like there's not too many standouts, right? After the few guys I mentioned and the few guys they have are hurt. It's a solid team. It's not like a terrible team. It is a pretty solid team that we're up against at a good time because they're missing some of their best players. So this is another series we should take advantage of. But then again, we say this, I feel like all the time. Remember, the Mariners had a really good schedule in this stretch. This was supposed to be the easy part of the schedule, but the Mariners are making it the hard part of the schedule. So with losing all these series, so that's kind of how I see this.
Yeah, and their their pitching staff hasn't been very good this year. It's been mostly the offense that's really surprised them because Chase DeLauder's been a real surprise. we faced them. I think it was opening day, and Chase DeLauder. Aside from his defense kind of blew up on him a little bit, but the offensive profile of this guy was incredible. He was hitting home runs like the we had Luke Raley who was hitting home runs alongside him, but Chase DeLauder was really mashing the ball. And I think the part that we really need to talk about here is because we know what our pitching staff is going to do, and we know kind of what their offense is going to do, especially with injuries that are that significant for the Guardians. I feel like we have a pretty good chance of shutting them down, especially with Gilbert coming on in the second day and George Kirby in the third. And Castillo, you never really know, but hopefully he does well here. That's the hope every time. But
Yeah.
yeah, but in terms of their pitching staff, we're not facing a prominent part of their pitching. But through when you look at the advanced metrics, he Slade Ciccone, is that how you read the last name? I think that is. He's actually been pretty incredible in the last 7 games compared to what he's been in the rest of the season. And that guy might be the one that we need to worry about, even though at first I was thinking Gavin Williams because that's the household name that the Guardians
Yeah.
have. But Gavin Williams has been consistently around like the average of what Woo's done this year versus the other two guys are younger guys that especially Slade Ciccone has been much better in the last 7 games than he has in the last 15 games. And so this is the guy that I think we should watch out for. And if we can, I think we can win the series.
Yeah, and another name because we're not going to be against him, right, in this series is keep an eye on Parker Messick and just in general because this guy, he's a young guy. I believe this is his second year in the majors, and he's been dominating. 2.67 ERA. He has over 100 strikeouts. He's been their best pitcher this year, and we're not against him, and we're also not against Tanner Bybee, who, with him, he's not
Mm-hmm.
the greatest one out there, but he had a few good years in the past, so. We're against the weaker part of the rotation as well. All this is leading to a Mariners series win, but I can't trust that right now. And we are against the left-handed pitcher in the first game, which is not ideal, right? At least the good thing is that we never even talked about this, how Rep Snyder, he finally got DFA, finally out of here. And we have Johnny Pareda. Hopefully he can continue what he did in the majors last time he was up and actually have the platoon work, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
Ref Snyder, I don't know, you got rich and didn't do much. I don't know. I don't have too much hard feelings against him, but he's old. Like I didn't expect much. Stein didn't work out. That's kind of how I think about that. But yeah, it's got to be a series we take advantage of. If not, we got some problems and we got a lot of investigating to do and a lot of reconsiderations.
Yeah. And so Johnny Pareda, interestingly, is kind of what I was talking about earlier with the grinding out of bats and walking. He's done that this year. And so I'm excited to see him back. The I wanna say with Ciccone, he doesn't have an elite weapon. He's always kind of had a above average everything. And what he does well is he's 6'4" and he can extend over the mound, kind of what Logan Gilbert does, but a little bit less. Logan Gilbert's 100th percentile on that, so he's the best guy when it comes down to that. Slade Ciccone tries to do the same thing. He's been good this last 7 games, but I actually see the Mariners taking advantage of him and his low walk rate. I'd love to see the Mariners actually break through that and take walks against this guy because if they can do that, then that proves that what I was just talking about, the Mariners are actually doing. And if that's so, the offense is going to look a lot better within just this series. You'll see the overall offense just click up. Another one I want to mention before we end here is Andres Munoz. Andres Munoz looks like the Andres Munoz that he was supposed to be at this point. And it's only been 3 games that he has been that, but clearly you can see the difference in his slider and his fastball, just completely different. And the most recent start, his command looked phenomenal. He had almost perfect command on his pitches, and that's exactly what I want to see. So I need to keep seeing that for Munoz if I think that this team is going to the World Series. So
Yeah, he had a 3 strikeout performance that was really good. Too bad that was the only game he could close.
yeah, let us know what you guys think about the Mariners offense, because I think that grinding out the at bat and taking walks is the strategy here. Maybe you guys think something different. I'd love to know that. So please give us a shout in the comments and let us know. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our beautiful faces on YouTube. Check out our Instagram. And as always, go Mariners.
Go Mariners.